Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we dive into the haunting depths of H.P. Lovecraft's tale, The Temple. This story has been reimagined and rewritten in English to bring you a fresh, suspenseful narration unlike any other. Prepare yourself for a journey into madness beneath the waves.
August 20th, 1917. I am Karl Heinrich, Graf von Altberg-Ehrenstein, Lieutenant Commander of the Imperial German Navy, Master of the submarine U-29. From the depths of the Atlantic, where my vessel lies crippled upon the ocean floor, I consign this record to the sea. I do so not in hope of rescue, but to ensure that the world may one day know the strange and terrible events that have brought me here. My fate is sealed, and even the iron discipline of my German will falters beneath the weight of what has transpired. It began on June 18. By wireless we reported to U-61, bound for Kiel, that we had struck the British freighter Victory, sailing from New York to Liverpool. At latitude 45 degrees 16 minutes north and longitude 28 degrees 34 minutes west, our torpedo found its mark. The crew abandoned ship, and we allowed them to flee in boats, our purpose not mercy, but spectacle. The Admiralty demanded a cinematic record, and so we filmed as the freighter sank in grim majesty, bow first, stern rising high, before plunging straight into the abyss. A perfect reel, destined never to reach Berlin. When the lifeboats drifted, we destroyed them with gunfire, then submerged. At sunset, we surfaced again. There, upon the deck, lay a body. A young sailor, dark-haired, strikingly handsome, clinging to the railing as though death itself had frozen him in place. Likely Italian or Greek, surely of the Victory's crew. He had sought refuge upon the very vessel that had doomed his own. Another casualty of this merciless war. The men rifled his pockets for trinkets and found a curious relic, a small ivory carving, the head of a youth crowned with laurel. Lieutenant Klenzer, ever the collector, declared it ancient and of great worth, and claimed it for himself. How such a treasure had come into the hands of a common sailor was beyond our imagining. When the corpse was cast overboard, unease spread among the crew. His eyes, closed in death, jarred open as the body was dragged to the rail. Several swore that those lifeless eyes fixed on Schmidt and Zimmer with a mocking stare. An illusion, perhaps, but one that chilled even the bravest among us. Bosun Mueller, an old Alsatian whose superstition outweighed his reason, grew frantic after the sight of the corpse. He swore that once the body slipped beneath the waves, its limbs twisted into a swimmer's pose, and it darted southward into the black water. Klenze and I dismissed such peasant nonsense with sharp reprimands, but Mueller's agitation unsettled the men. The following day brought fresh unease. Several of the crew fell ill, the faces pale, their minds clouded by nightmares. They stumbled about in a daze, too weak to perform their duties. Convinced they were not feigning, I excused them. To escape the rough seas, we descended into calmer depths, though a strange southward current tugged at us, one not marked on any chart. The groans of the sick echoed through the steel hull, irritating, yet not enough to break discipline. Our plan remained to lie in wait for the liner Dacia, as intelligence from New York had promised. By evening we surfaced. The horizon bore the smoke of a battleship, but distance and the safety of submersion kept us secure. What gnawed at us more was Mueller's fevered talk. He babbled like a child, claiming to see bloated corpses drifting past the portholes, faces of men we had slain in past victories. He insisted the handsome youth we had cast overboard led them. His ravings were grotesque, intolerable. Discipline demanded action. Mueller was chained,
whipped and silenced. The crew muttered their disapproval, but order had to be maintained. When Zimmer and others begged that the ivory carving be hurled into the sea, we refused. June 20 brought madness. Bohm and Schmidt, sick the day before, erupted into violent insanity. Their shrieks of curses and doom threatened to unravel the crew's resolve. Without a physician, I lamented the waste of German lives, but their ravings endangered discipline. Severe measures were taken. The men accepted it sullenly, yet Müller grew quiet thereafter. Released that evening, he returned to his duties in silence, the fire of his superstition seemingly extinguished. The week that followed was a crucible of nerves. We waited for the Dacia, but the silence aboard was heavier than the ocean pressing around us. Müller and Zimmer vanished. No one saw them leap, yet all knew they had surrendered to the sea. Their absence brought a strange relief, though Müller's silence had already poisoned the crew's mood. Now every man seemed to carry a secret fear, speaking little, their eyes hollow. Illness spread, but no one dared cause a disturbance. Lieutenant Klenze grew irritable, snapping at trifles. Even the dolphins unsettled him. Schools of them swarmed around the U-29 in an unnatural numbers, their sleek bodies gliding alongside us as if escorting the doomed vessel. More troubling still was the southward current, strong and insistent, unmarked on any chart. It pulled us relentlessly towards some unknown fate.
By June 28, it was clear. The Dacia had eluded us. Such failures were not rare, and we felt more relief than disappointment. We turned northeast, bound for Wilhelmshaven, yet the dolphins clung to us, weaving in strange patterns, as though mocking our course. Then, at 2 o'clock, disaster struck. Without warning, the submarine convulsed with a colossal shock. The engine room erupted in ruin, fuel tank shattered, machinery torn apart. Engineers Rabe and Schneider were killed instantly. Klentz rushed to the wreckage, but there was no salvation. The U-29 was crippled. We could still rise and sink, still breathe through the chemical regenerators, but propulsion was gone. We were adrift, powerless, a coffin sliding through the abyss. To abandon ship in lifeboats meant capture, deliverance into the hands of enemies who despised our nation. The wireless, silent since the Victory affair, offered no hope of contact. So we drifted south, helpless from the moment of the explosion until July 2nd. The dolphins remained, circling us with eerie persistence, as though bound to our fate. On the morning of July 2nd, an American warship appeared on the horizon. The crew grew restless, voices rising with talk of surrender. Discipline faltered. One man, Traub, pressed the matter with dangerous fervor. Klentz acted swiftly. His pistol barked, and Traub fell. The crew quieted, cowed by blood. We submerged unseen, but the shadow of mutiny lingered in the steel corridors of the U-29. The next afternoon, the sky darkened with a storm of seabirds sweeping in from the south. Their cries pierced the air as the ocean heaved beneath us, waves rising with ominous force. We sealed the hatches, bracing for the assault, until it became clear either we submerged or the sea would swallow us whole. Our air and power reserves were dwindling, and every descent drained precious resources, but survival left us no choice. We slipped beneath the surface, not far, and waited. Hours later the waters calmed, and we rose again. But a new terror awaited. The submarine no longer obeyed. No matter what the mechanics attempted, the U-29 drifted like a coffin adrift in the abyss. The men, trapped in this steel tomb, muttered once more of Klentz's ivory idol, whispering curses and doom. A pistol silenced their voices, but fear lingered in their eyes. To keep them from madness,
We forced them to tinker endlessly with the ruined machinery, though we knew it was futile. Clence and I slept in shifts. At dawn on July 4th, while I lay in uneasy rest, chaos erupted. The 6 remaining seamen, convinced we were lost, exploded in mutiny. Their rage was feral, cursing, smashing instruments, tearing apart the vessel in blind fury. They shrieked of the ivory head, of the drowned youth whose eyes haunted them, of curses that clung to our ship. Clence froze, useless, paralyzed by fear. Discipline demanded action. I drew my pistol and fired until silence reigned. 6 men lay dead. None remained alive.
We cast their bodies into the sea, leaving only Cleanser and myself aboard U-29. He trembled, drinking heavily to dull his nerves. We resolved to endure as long as provisions and oxygen allowed. Yet our compasses, gauges, and instruments lay in ruin. From now on, our reckoning would be guesswork. Time measured by watches, drift judged by fleeting glimpses through portholes or the conning tower. The batteries still gave us light, and the search lamp pierced the black waters, but always the beam revealed only dolphins. They swam beside us, endless and unyielding, shadowing our drift as if bound to our fate. I studied them with cold fascination. The dolphin is a mammal dependent on air, yet I watched one glide beneath the waves for 2 hours without surfacing. It did not breathe. It did not falter. It simply swam, eternal, as though it belonged to another world. Time dragged on, and Cleanse and I knew we were drifting ever southward, sinking deeper into the abyss. We studied the strange life around us, leafing through the scientific volumes I had brought for idle hours. Yet I could not ignore the weakness of my companion's mind. He was no Prussian. His thoughts wandered into useless fantasies, his spirit softened by remorse. Often he prayed for the souls of those we had sent to the bottom, forgetting that all sacrifice is noble when it serves the fatherland. Soon his balance faltered. He stared for hours at the ivory idol, whispering tales of forgotten kingdoms beneath the waves. He spoke of sunken ships, of civilizations swallowed by the sea, weaving poetry into madness. At times I indulged him, listening as one might observe a psychological experiment. But I pitied him. He was not a man fit to die beside. I, on the other hand, felt pride, knowing that Germany would honor my memory, and my sons would be taught to stand as men like me. On August 9, the ocean floor revealed itself. Our searchlight swept across a vast plain, undulating and draped in seaweed, littered with shells of tiny creatures. Slimy shapes loomed in the beam, forms encrusted with barnacles, draped in weeds. Cleanse muttered that they were ancient ships, long dead in their watery graves. Then he saw something stranger, a peak of solid matter rising from the seabed. 4 feet high, 2 feet thick, its flat sides meeting at a blunt angle. To me it was nothing more than rock, but Cleanse swore he saw carvings upon it. His face paled, his body shuddered, and he turned away, shaken by the immensity and mystery of the abyss. He could not explain his fear, only that the ancient silence pressed upon him. I remained clear-eyed. I noted 2 things with satisfaction. The U-29 bore the crushing pressure of the deep with splendid strength, and the dolphins, those uncanny companions, still swam beside us. Even here, at depths where naturalists claim no higher life can exist, they remained, watching, waiting.
I had misjudged our depth before. Yet even so, we were far below the realm of ordinary life. The submarine drifted southward, its pace measured by the strange organisms sliding past the portholes. Then, at 3:15 in the afternoon on August 12, madness claimed Clenzy completely. He burst from the conning tower into the library where I sat, his face twisted with frenzy. His words came in a fevered cry. "He is calling! He is calling! I hear him! We must go!" Clutching the ivory idol, he seized my arm, desperate to drag me up the ladder, intent on opening the hatch and plunging us both into the black water. I resisted, trying to soothe him, but his mania grew. "Come now, repent and be forgiven. Better that than defiance in condemnation." His voice shook with conviction. I told him he was mad, pitifully deranged, but he only raved louder. If madness is mercy, then may the gods pity the man who clings to sanity at the hideous end. Come, be mad while he still calls with mercy. The outburst seemed to drain him. He grew calmer, pleading that if I would not join him, I should at least allow him to go alone. My decision was clear. He was no longer a companion, but a danger. A Rhinelander, a commoner, and now a lunatic. By granting his wish, I rid myself of a menace. I asked for the ivory carving before he left, but his laughter, cold, uncanny, made me abandon the request. I asked if he wished to leave a keepsake for his family, but again he laughed, hollow and strange. He climbed the ladder. I moved to the controls, and with deliberate timing operated the machinery that sent him to his death. When I was certain he was gone, I swept the searchlight across the waters, hoping to glimpse his body, curious whether the crushing pressure would flatten him or whether he would remain untouched like those impossible dolphins. But I saw nothing. The dolphins swarmed thickly around the conning tower, their sleek forms blotting out the view, as if shielding him from my eyes. That evening, regret gnawed at me. I should have taken the ivory idol from Clenzy before he vanished, for its image haunted me still. The youthful face crowned with leaves, beautiful and unsettling. Though I am no artist, I could not banish it from my thoughts. Loneliness pressed upon me. Clenzy, though weak of mind, had been better than silence. Sleep eluded me, and I wondered when the inevitable end would arrive. Rescue was a fantasy I no longer entertained. The next day I climbed to the conning tower and swept the searchlight across the abyss. To the north, the view was unchanged, as it had been for days, but southward, the ocean floor fell sharply away, revealing blocks of stone arranged with uncanny precision, as though laid by human hands. Adjusting the beam downward, I struggled with a broken wire, delaying the revelation. At last, the light flared again, and the valley below was unveiled. I am not a man prone to emotion, yet what I saw filled me with awe. Spread across the seabed lay the ruins of a city, vast, elaborate, and ancient beyond reckoning. Marble structures gleamed ghostly white in the glow, their roofs collapsed, their columns shattered, yet still bearing the majesty of forgotten ages. Temples and villas clung to the slopes above, while the valley floor stretched wide, a drowned metropolis preserved in silence. It was Atlantis, no longer myth, but stone and shadow before my eyes. My heart surged with the thrill of discovery.
I traced the outlines of bridges, seawalls, terraces, and embankments, remnants of a river that had once flowed through this place. Once verdant, once alive, now entombed beneath the crushing sea. In my fervor, I grew almost as delirious as poor Clenzy, blind to the fact that the southward current had ceased. The U-29 no longer drifted. It descended, slowly, deliberately, like an aircraft settling upon a city of the upper world. Only later did I realize that the uncanny dolphins had vanished, leaving me alone with silence and stone. 2 hours passed, and the submarine came to rest upon a vast paved plaza pressed against the rocky wall of the valley. To one side stretched the drowned city, sloping downward toward the ghost of its ancient river. To the other, looming in dreadful proximity, rose the facade of a colossal temple carved directly from the living rock. Its magnitude was staggering. A continuous recess ran the length of the facade, punctuated by countless windows. At its heart gaped a monumental doorway, reached by a sweeping flight of steps. Around the portal, exquisite carvings writhed in relief, figures of revelers, priests and priestesses, bearing strange devices in adoration of a radiant god. Columns towered, friezes gleamed, every surface alive with artistry of impossible perfection. The style was Hellenic, yet alien, an ancestor of Greek art so ancient it seemed born of another world. The temple was not built, but hewn from the hillside itself, its vast interior hollowed by means I could not fathom. Perhaps caverns had formed its core, expanded by hands long vanished.
Neither time nor the crushing sea had marred its grandeur. Untouched, inviolate, it endured, an eternal shrine resting in the endless night of the abyss. A fane of terrible antiquity, waiting, as though it had always waited, for me. I lost all sense of time as I gazed upon the drowned city, its arches, statues, bridges, and the colossal temple that loomed with silent majesty. Death was near, yet curiosity consumed me. The searchlight swept across the ruins, revealing fragments of forgotten glory. But the temple's yawning doorway remained shrouded in impenetrable blackness. At last I extinguished the beam, conserving what little power remained. The light had grown weaker with each passing day, and its fading glow only sharpened my hunger to uncover the secrets of the abyss. I, a German, would be the first to walk those aeon-forgotten streets. I examined the deep-sea suit of joined metal, tested the portable lamp and air regenerator, and prepared myself for the ordeal of the double hatches. My skill would overcome every obstacle. On August 16, I left the U-29 and trudged through the mud-choked avenues to the ancient river. No bones greeted me, no trace of human remains, only the silent testimony of sculptures and coins. They spoke of a civilization at its zenith, flourishing when Europe still sheltered cave-dwellers and the Nile flowed unmarked to the sea. Others, if they find this record, must unravel the mysteries I can only hint at. My batteries waned, and I returned to the submarine, resolved to explore the temple itself on the morrow. But on August 17, disappointment struck. The materials to replenish my portable light had been destroyed in the mutiny of July. Rage surged through me, yet discipline forbade recklessness. I would not plunge into a black interior unarmed, where some monstrous denizen might lurk, or a labyrinth of passages might entrap me forever. All I could do was ignite the failing searchlight of the U-29 and ascend the temple steps, studying the carvings that adorned its facade, silent witnesses to an age beyond memory.
The searchlight's beam crept into the temple's doorway, slanting upward yet revealing nothing. The roof was swallowed in shadow,
And though I tested the floor with a staff and stepped inside, I dared not advance further. For the first time in my life, dread seized me. I began to understand the madness that had consumed poor Cleanse, for the temple drew me with a terrible fascination, and its abyss filled me with blind, mounting terror. I retreated to the submarine, extinguished the lights, and sat in darkness, conserving what little power remained. Saturday the 18th passed in total blackness. Thoughts and memories tormented me, threatening to break even my German will. Cleanse had gone mad before reaching this sinister relic of a past too ancient, too unwholesome to contemplate. He had urged me to follow him. Was fate preserving my reason only to lead me toward an end more hideous than any man has ever dreamed? My nerves were frayed, yet I forced myself to dismiss such weakness. That night, sleep eluded me. I relit the lamps, reckless of the dwindling electricity. It angered me that the power would fail before the air and provisions. Thoughts of euthanasia returned, and I examined my pistol. Toward dawn I must have drifted into uneasy slumber, for I awoke in darkness, the batteries dead. I struck match after match, cursing the folly that had wasted our few candles long ago. When the last flame guttered out, I sat in silence, waiting for the inevitable. My mind wandered back through all that had happened, and a realization stirred, one that would have driven a weaker man to shudder. The radiant god carved upon the temple's facade bore the same face as the ivory idol taken from the dead sailor, the same relic Cleanse had carried back into the sea. The coincidence unsettled me, though I refused to surrender to terror. Only weak minds rush to explain the strange and complex with the crude shortcut of superstition. The likeness between the temple's god and the ivory idol was uncanny, yes, but I was too disciplined a thinker to weave irrational connections between such events. Seeking rest, I swallowed a sedative and drifted into uneasy sleep. Dreams tormented me. I heard the cries of drowning souls, saw pale faces pressed against the portholes of the submarine. Among them was one face, not dead but alive, the mocking visage of the youth who had carried the ivory image.
When I awoke, I was shaken, uncertain of what was real and what was hallucination. My case, I thought, would fascinate any competent German psychologist, if only it could be studied. My first sensation was overwhelming, an irresistible compulsion to enter the rock-hewn temple. The desire grew stronger with each heartbeat, yet was shadowed by a counterforce, fear, raw and primal, pulling me back. Then came light. In the darkness of dead batteries I saw a phosphorescent glow shimmering through the porthole that faced the temple. No known deep-sea creature could emit such radiance. My curiosity burned, but before I could investigate, another impression struck, irrational, impossible. I heard sound. A rhythmic, melodic chant, wild yet beautiful, echoing through the soundproof hull of the U-29. I knew my nerves were fraying, my senses betraying me. I struck matches, poured a heavy dose of sodium bromide, and the phantom music faded. Yet the glow remained, horribly real. It illuminated the cabin, casting shapes into stark relief. By its light, I saw familiar objects, and the empty glass I had used, now visible where before I had not noticed it. The abyss was speaking, and I was listening. The vision of the glass confirmed my doubts. It was truly where I had seen it. Whether the glow was real or a hallucination too fixed to dispel, I could no longer resist.
I climbed to the conning tower, searching for the source of the light. Perhaps, I thought, another U-boat lingered nearby, a phantom chance of rescue. But what I found shattered the last remnants of trust in my own senses. The sea was dark, the drowned city invisible, no trace of natural phosphorescence in the water. Yet the temple carved into the rocky hill blazed with radiance. Its door and windows flickered with a light like that of a vast altar flame burning deep within. From that moment, chaos ruled. Visions overtook me, extravagant, impossible. I thought I saw shapes moving within the temple, shadows and figures both still and alive. The chant returned, the same haunting hymn that had once drifted to me in sleep. And always my thoughts circled back to the youth from the sea, the ivory idol, and the carvings that mirrored his face upon the temple's friezes. I remember poor Cleansey, his warnings, his madness, and wondered where his body lay with the relic he carried back into the abyss.
Now the truth is simple. The impulse to enter the temple has become a command, irresistible and absolute. My will is no longer my own. I can choose only in trivial matters. In all else I am compelled. This madness drove Cleansey to his death, unprotected in the ocean. Yet I am a Prussian, a man of discipline. I will use what little reason remains to walk into the temple, to meet whatever waits within, and to surrender at last to the call that cannot be denied. At last, I knew I must go. I readied the diving suit, the helmet, the air regenerator, my final armor against the abyss. Before departing, I set down this hurried testament, sealing it in a bottle to entrust to the sea, that perhaps one day the world may know what befell the U-29. I feel no fear. Not even the ravings of poor mad Cleansey can shake me now. What I have witnessed cannot be real. It is only the fever of a mind pushed beyond endurance. At worst, this madness will end in suffocation when my air runs out. The light within the temple is illusion, nothing more. And so I shall die calmly, as a German should, silent, steadfast, in the black, forgotten depths. The laughter I hear as I write is no voice from without, but the echo of my own failing mind. Yet still I will go. I will don the suit, step from the submarine, and ascend those ancient stairs. I will walk boldly into that primal shrine, that secret of unfathomed waters and uncounted years. And there, in the eternal silence, I shall meet my fate.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.